Also, one thing that it could also work like for when you are doing the demo is like putting the explainer video there or the interface showing a small video animated so people can understand better, because in the first company and a software is a little bit hard to explain with words, and not sometimes a video or a picture can explain more than 100 words. So I think also could be a good tool to use. Some people are asking me that question.
Yeah, so again, tailored, right?
Yes.
Short explainer videos can do. I would not recommend one general all-purpose one, which is what almost every small SaaS has, right? Almost every small SaaS you go look at, there's one explainer video. It's like you scroll down the page, there's the explainer, and they're like, I did my job. You know how to use the tool.
Exactly. No.
People are watching this.
But on the demo, you can use videos to show how this could be a good tool, I think.
You can. I tend not to. I tend to show the actual tool.
The actual tool,
on really technical product, your salesperson isn't always going to be that technical, right?
Exactly.
So being able to say then, oh, you're trying to set up a PostgreSQL database and connecting it to Django so that you can have I don't know what type of systems that, like, okay, sure, let me show you how it's done with this recorded video our engineering team made, right?
Yes, sir. Some other people are asking me also, Trevor, sometimes when the market is a little bit saturated, and especially they say my software is better even than my competition, how can I express that in my content, or how can I convince better the final user that my software is better? This one question that we get a lot also.
Sure. So startup founders give for why you should use their product are it's cheaper or it's better. And the sad fact is neither of those matter. So when someone says my software is better, good for you. But you know what the number one competition for every SaaS app out there is? Excel, which has a million features and an utter crap user experience. So when you're saying my software is better than pick your SaaS app out there, right? Really, you're competing in most legacy businesses still with spreadsheets. The better functionality is not what matters. What you have to sell is do the nonsense is it lets you understand, right? That Django software I just mentioned, it would work really well if you tell a CTO, hey, you can set this up like a linter for all of your developers so they roll out their server with the exact same configuration, and there's no need to worry if someone did something quirky on their own. That's the same software and a 100% different way to sell it, right? In either case, are you better than other options out there? I mean, people don't really care about better. They care about, can you fix this problem? Can you persuade me you're good at fixing my precise issue? And there are going to be 5 or 10 or 20 softwares that can solve your problem. Part of what positioning shows people is we're solving this problem with these people. I have a services overview sheet, right, of what CrowdTamers does. There's also a section there on what we don't do, right? The kind of client I don't want. And so if I send this to somebody and they're like, oh, I was hoping you do this thing on your we don't do that sheet, I'd be like, well, we don't do that, right? I'm positioning myself deliberately away from 99% of the market. I'm saying I work for this small area. My expertise is here. I will solve these problems. Your SaaS needs to be the same way. The more you try and say, oh, we do that too, the more you suffer in being compared with somebody who does only that. And then when business comes in that wants that problem solved and you're we do that too, you lose out to the software that does only that because the messaging is clearer. The lead has to think less about, but can you fix the problem I have? And they have less trust because they see I'm on the, we're on the, and 10 more great features subheading. That's not where you want your leads to be coming from. They should be coming from the H1, the main headline, right? We do this thing. Yes, I want that thing. Not, and we do these 10 other things too. And then you've got people coming in on those. They're going to be real hard to close. So how you stand out is by loudly declaring what you don't do and loudly declaring what you do. And then at that point.
That's amazing. And other thing that people are worried that sometimes also ask me, you told me that the email marketing is one of the best methods, but how can we ensure, or how can, if for the owners of the SaaS companies, how can they do the emails better so the open rate can increase a little bit? Because people are worried a little bit that they create an email campaign and sometimes they won't get the emails open. Is there a strategy or a good method also to use email marketing?
There's not opted-in service,
Yeah.
and now you have their email address to send to.
Uh-huh.
And the other side is cold email, right?
Cool.
I'm reaching out to you. You have no idea who I am, and I want to convince you to buy my stuff.
That's yes.
There's two, and you take very different approaches to each, right? On the people who've opted in and they know you, if you're doing content marketing, then you should be evaluating, right, what content of mine is doing well. How do I speak more about this? And do keep in mind, 80% of success is repetition. So you might say, like I do this, right? I write every week on my blog, and I almost always write variations of the exact same thing. Which is title on your start being boring. Why would anybody care about what you have marketing for 2 years now? Pays attention to 5% of the stuff you do. Repeating myself, I'm being boring. You feel that way for you. Your entire audience only sees you, right? That thing that you think is deadly dull and boring is what they come to think of you as. So if you, and not necessarily boring, right? Just like, oh, you're the Django config guy. Cool. I know if I need Django config stuff, I go here because every once in a while I see that and I go, oh, it's that dude. Right. And it's the same for me. I'm the startup launch guy. And you don't go, oh man, all he ever does is talk about that. He's so boring. You're just like, oh yeah, I read something a couple days ago. And it was like, that was decent content. And I remember a couple weeks ago too. Like there was something there. Yeah, okay, he's good at that. So the consistency of your message and your focus to an opted-in list is really important. Even if you feel like you're being just a record playing and skipping over the same track over and over again, right? You have to come up with variations of the theme, but stay consistent. On outbound, it's a little bit different. On outbound, you can treat outbound cold email almost like display ads, right? It is fundamentally interruptive advertising, just like display ads. The trick is you have 86 characters of text and no images, right, for this interruption. So any ad that's interruptive is a series of attention for 2 seconds, for long enough to read this piece of text, the headline. If I can I get your attention for long enough to open the email, or long enough to read the actual ad? And then can I get you to go to the landing page, right? Can I get you to click on the link? So when you think of it that way, on a email, you've written your 5-sentence email. It needs to be short, right? A very short, direct pitch. Here's what I do. You should crafting the subject line because 90% of the people only ever read that. And if you find, here's a list of 21 great subject lines that guarantee email opens or whatever clickbait blog post you found, and you grab one of those subject lines and you put it in, you say, there you go, job's done, Bob's your uncle. No. Like, one, everyone's gotten whatever that subject line is 40 times this week. So already you lost. Two, all the effort you put into your business and into your outreach is wasted because no one clicked to open the email. So when you start sending a cold email in particular, look at the open rates obsessively and test very rigorously that subject line. And like, as long as I'm running cold emails, I will always be testing subject line variants because you can always find something better. A good proxy for that, if you want, is because display ads and email subject lines are very kind of similar in their approach. You can run on Facebook or on Twitter ads with the email subject lines you would like to try. And then whichever ad got the best clicks, that's your email subject line. I used to do that for GOG, a video game company I worked at, where we had a list of almost 3 million people opted in. I mean, they were like legitimately wanted to hear from us. And so we would, the day before we sent our email out every week, we would split test subject lines on Facebook to see which one was best, because we'd spend $200 or $300 on the ads and we'd make between $5,000 and $50,000 more money because we had the right subject line. So you can do that too. On cold outbound, like, honestly, 8% reply rate, that's okay. It's a numbers game, right? You've got to work that kind of flog that horse. On opted in, you want 40% open rates, something around there. Suggest you've got a good list, right? 20%, like, that's okay. It's marginal. It's okay. If you're less than that, you need to start culling your list. And the other thing you want to do on an opted in list is every 6 months or so, if somebody hasn't opened your emails in 6 months, remove them from your list. They're not going to buy now. If it's been 6 months, let that one go. They may come back someday.
That's a great tip, Trevor. And also, one advice that you would love to give to our audience for this SaaS company owner that is out there and is a little bit lost where to go, or any advice if they want to reach you, how can they reach you, and what type of SaaS company owner do you accept in your program, and if you could tell us more about your program, and if they need to have already how many subscriptions, or they can start with you anytime, or a little, if you could tell us
Sure.
a little bit about you, and also anything important also that you wanted to share with, because if we could stay the whole day here, because I have so many questions from the SaaS owners that because it's sometimes it's overwhelming for them when they are starting the SaaS company, and if they don't have like a North Star, that the one that you are giving, it will be very difficult for them. So any tip for them will be very good for our audience.
Okay, cool. So
Yes.
like, I didn't come on this call to flog crowd tamers particularly. I will talk about it a bit here at the end.
Yes, would be very interesting, because I think our audience would be very interested in knowing a little bit more.
Okay, cool. Well, I will first start with
Yes.
3 pieces of advice that you may not hear somewhere else.
Yes, exactly.
The first piece of advice that you may not hear somewhere else is when you launch a startup, you have 2 different sources of anxiety, right? When you launch a startup, there's a wolf at the door. And the wolf at the door is your bills, right? It is server costs and salary and licensing and office space and overhead and all these big money items. And when you've just launched your startup, you don't have all that because it's probably you in your living room, right? But as you start to scale, that sits there. And a wolf at the door is loud and scary, and everyone works really hard to keep the wolf outside, right? And you're protecting everything that's valuable inside the walls of your little fortress, and the wolf stays out there. But there's another source of anxiety that many founders don't consider, which is the rats in the basement. And the rats in the basement is not money that you spend, it is time that you waste, because time and money are interchangeable variables in business, right? Rather than spend $1,000 or $5,000 to learn something, rather than, like, I just onboarded a new employee this week, and we want to find a developer to solve a very small but particular automation problem. And he found somebody who he liked, but he thought he was charging a little too much, and he wanted to go start over the recruitment process again. And like, honestly, the end cost difference will be maybe $200 on this little app he's going to write for us. And if we restart our search to find the right person to solve it, will be 15 hours of labor to find somebody who might be $3 or $5 an hour cheaper. Like, that's the wolf and the rat, right? The wolf is, the money is more, but the rat is, I spent 15 hours to save $200, and that was a dumb choice. So as you build your startup, you have to be okay with, sometimes you feed the wolf so that you can worry about the rats, right? Pay attention to your time management. It's time you waste in meetings. It's time you waste in stupid little tasks that you could do some other way if you just spend $2 or $5 or $50 or $100 or $1,000 to make them go away. Right? Almost every startup founder should have a VA, unless you work in an economy where it's so cheap that you can't hire a VA for less than your time. That's one piece of advice you won't hear. Second piece of advice you probably won't hear very often is, I would suggest you avoid VC funding until you are profitable. At least, as they say, ramen profitable, right? You're covering your cost of living. There are a myriad of reasons why. The simplest ones are, if you're ramen profitable before you look for VC funding, you will get hugely better terms, right? Your company valuation when you are making $5,000 a month versus $0 a month is 10x or 30x or 100x different, because you've proven you found a market, you've proven people will buy, and you've proven your product works. Now, there are cases where you can't do this, right? If you're doing a biopharma startup and you have to have $5 million just get through the FDA, you're not going to pocket fund that. But if you're building a SaaS startup, as your listeners are, starting up a SaaS business these days, it's almost free. Like, it is so cheap. Even like, I've been in startup marketing for 20 years. 20 years ago, the effort required to even just build a landing page and launch it, compared to now, unfathomable, right? You've got Webflow, you've got Squarespace, you've got Wix, you've got all of these builders where you don't have to know how to code anything. You don't have to know how to make an SSL certificate function, right? These are all built in all these places. So that ease of launch, take advantage of it. Get out there, make money, then go VC track. Or maybe never go the VC track, right? What's your goal for your business? If you're getting into startups to be rich, you screwed up, because by and large, you're not gonna, right? If you're getting into startups because you want to build something cool, you want freedom, you want to set your own agenda, you want to learn faster than you ever would working for someone else, excellent. Welcome to the club. We're happy to have you. Will you be wealthy? I doubt it, right? Just look at the numbers. But the ability to say, hey, I'm at least profitable, I'm at least making some money, that is pretty achievable for almost any micro startup, right? You go look on Twitter on the hashtag building in public, and you'll find every month 5 or 10 or a dozen people who've launched their startup this month and got to 2K MRR, right? That's not a lot of work to get there. Okay, get there first. The second piece of advice. Third piece of advice then is launch today, right? If you're thinking of a SaaS startup, if you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, oh man, I want to build this thing. I don't have a tech co-founder, or I do have I am the tech co-founder. I haven't got the marketer to build the website, or whatever your excuses are. Stop. Launch today. Go to Wix, go to Squarespace, build a landing page, take you an hour, right? And launch and see. For a few reasons. One is because if you've launched, you've already gone further than 90% of the hopeful startup wannabe people. Even if you've written no code, right? Just launching is already a success. Two is once you've launched, you can learn, right? My whole go-to-market approach starts with the launch. I have a client I'm working with right now. They have a successful non-tech business. They're an HR recruiting agency. And they want to build a SaaS platform, but they don't know what to build. And so I said, not a problem. Let's launch 3 different products and see which. That's insane. I'm like, well, it works really well. I've done a bunch before. Let's try it. And so all the company, except for the CEO, had one product they wanted to build, and they launched it, and it went catastrophically poorly. Then the CEO's product that he wanted to launch came together, launched it, done phenomenally, right? Like great clicks, getting signups, everyone's interested. So one, the whole company is kind of mad because the CEO was right. But hey, at least the boss is happy. But the other thing is they would have written the wrong software, right? They would have hired devs, hired UX designers, hired front end, gone and deployed and gotten all of their licensing and everything and invested. They had guessed it would be about $120,000 to build this all up, right? For nothing. And instead they spent, I think, $500 in ads, no, $1,000 in ads. And then my agency fee, all told under 5K, right? And they knew, don't do that. And they only got that because they launched. So there's your 3 pieces of advice you won't get most other places. About CrowdTamers, about me. So I do early startup go-to-market. I tend to work with companies that are either seed funded, generating some revenue, or have a founder with the previous exit, so they have some money, right? CrowdTamers is not, like, I try and keep our prices quite low. We're a full service agency with design, copy, strategy, reporting, like everything done for you on the marketing side. But we do start at $3,500 for basically one experiment, one lesson that you learn. And then we go, how many experiments do you want to run? We'll do that many. And then eventually we charge after we've learned enough by the channel managed. So by Facebook or social media content, whatever, by however you want to break up your marketing, we will help with some of that. We tend to work with the client for 6 to 12 months, right? We've got you there. We've gotten you to $500,000, $1 million in revenue. Off you go. That whole system is in part because I'm trying to build an agency powered by AI with a goal of in 7 years, I'm going to help 1,000 startups reach $1 million in revenue. So that's a big goal. Only way you do it is if you can automate a lot of this, because this is a very regular process, right? If I can automate a bunch of this and then have humans who are talented sitting on top of the AI, making sure everything is going right, making tweaks, making adjustments, and helping these clients run their startups and launch them, that's the goal. So we're at, I think I'm at 9 so far since I've launched CrowdTamers. Got a long way to go to get to 1,000. But as I build the SaaS side of this and the AI side of this, it scales up, right? That's the whole point of SaaS. So yeah, that's who I work for. You don't necessarily have to have any sales, right? As I've mentioned, one client, they haven't even written the software yet. I've just told them what it's going to be. My blog at crowdtamers.com/blog. I write about this all the time. Once a week, indeed. And on Twitter at Trevor Longino or at CrowdTamers, you can find me. Everything I know, I share, because that's also part of hitting that $1,000, 1,000 startups who've reached $1 million in revenue. Right? If you can come to my website, learn everything you need to know, go off and do it yourself, More power to you.
That's amazing, Trevor. I think these 3 tips that you already gave us will be a game changer for our audience. Like, it's pure value what you gave us, and
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. And just to finish our nice conversation here, Trevor, these guys that because most of these entrepreneurs, the SaaS owners, always ask me, they are not very creative in the marketing. It's the pain point that they feel is the marketing, because they have a great product, or they have a good, everything. The software is good, and the product is good. They invest a lot in software developers, but what they worry the most is the marketing and to get the new users. This is the thing I think that most SaaS companies. So to just finish, maybe some words of wisdom from you that could help a little bit this guy that he has a great product out there, and maybe even better than the competition, but because of creativity or marketing knowledge, they are not getting the users they deserve at this moment. So how can they improve the writing, or they should hire like copywriters or agencies also to create the creative, like you mentioned in the past, Gary Vee, like, he's very creative guy. He's amazing with the creativity of the content. So they should follow him, or what kind of, to get more successful.
Gotcha. So I've been doing marketing for a long time.
Yes, exactly.
I don't think of myself as an especially creative person. I have creative people who work in my team sometimes, not always.
Mhm.
And part of what makes CrowdTamer's go-to-market approach teachable to almost any founder is you don't need much creativity, right? I've got, I will soon be publishing the templates that I use for my company when I'm building ads for my clients. So basically drop your logo in, go to Unsplash, find an image, and then change the text, right? Bog simple. Copy can be hard, but for like $100 a month, you can get AI copywriting that is 80% good, right? The real utility I have found for it. Now, my very first job was copywriter. Both my parents are English teachers. So copy comes real easy to me. But many people don't have a background where, my usual punishment when I was grounded was I had to write essays. And so the faster I could write them, the faster I'd be ungrounded. So I got to where I could write essays real fast. Not many people have that background when they were raised. So they struggle somewhat. How do I write content? And so these AI engines, you tell them what you want to write, and they'll spit out some text in a minute that then you can take and build on to make the final copy. That's the real value. Is it's like hiring an extremely junior copywriter who never gets mad at you, who will work whenever you want to work, and who costs $100 a month. And again, the wolf and the rat, right? You go, oh, it's $100 a month. Yeah, but to hire a copywriter to write one blog post is $100 a month. And then if you want revisions on it, or not $100 a month, $100 per post, right? And then if you want revisions, you got to pay more. So spend the money, get the tool, use it to generate that copy. And what you're doing here, when you're discovering your positioning, is just saying, who do I think might care about my product, right? Set it up on Facebook. And I do have a complete walkthrough on how to do this on my blog. And I'm also writing a book, which will have this as well. And so you take the templates, you drop in the image, you add the text, you go to a copywriting service, you pay them to help you write your words, you make your landing page. All that's done. Then you run your ads. You try several different personas to talk to. You find the right persona, people who care. And then if you're completely stuck for how to talk to them, call them, right? Once you've proven through quantitative means, right? I've sampled 10,000 people, and these are the 500 who care. Talk to them, record what you have to say, and then use the words they said to talk about what you do. None of this requires creativity. It requires the diligent application of persistent effort, which is anathema to many people, right? They like to be, oh, I had the big thought. You can carry out the execution, right? And if instead you say, no, I had the big thought and now I have to do the execution one way or another. All those things, right? No hiring a creative agency, no thinking of what your favorite customer persona eats for breakfast every day, or whatever nonsense creatives will have you do sometimes, right? Get the work done, get stuff executed, put it out there, launch today, fail, because you will, try again, and get back to work.
Thank you so much, Trevor. This was a very good episode today, and I hope this is the first of many more in the future.
Cool. Well, congrats. I'm happy to be number 2, and I hope you have many more good episodes in the future as well.
Yes, we are trying to give as much value as we can to our audience.
Excellent. All right.
All right.